older, and it's good to clean the slate to say, to let people know how I am. Staying on what I have always believed from 1939, I have taken that position. I didn't take it carelessly. My father had already warned me. If you take certain positions within a society, particularly one in which you or your people do not govern, there's certain repercussion that you're going to pay. And you must expect it. You must be willing to pay for this. And I don't consider it really a sacrifice. It is not a sacrifice because I was fortunate enough to have a father that was sane to pick out the right kind of woman to marry, a black woman. He could have gone mentally ill and picked him out something else like O.J. Simpson. And then he would have had to ask the community to back him after he had done that. And some of our sisters, and most of our sisters, are really stupid. They are crying now for O.J. Simpson. They are saying that he's a black man. When did he become a black man? O.J. Simpson has been a black man for years. See, to me, you give up your blackness when you disrespect, when you spit in the womb that gets you, you give up the right to be anything. You can't even call a woman your mother. You don't have that right anymore. You spat in her womb, you tell her she's nothing, you kick her in her womb. It's like a man taking his foot and kicking a black woman pregnant in her womb. It's the same thing. It may not be physical, but the fact that which you treat her. If you could go to bed and get a child with a woman, and then the child drowns in a swimming pool, and at that moment you decide to leave that woman and go and get you a white slut, then you have given up all right of respect by the black woman. But the black woman as a mother is such, we understand her, and we understand his mother, that the black woman takes all kind of insult from her black son. But she can't leave because that's something that makes the woman unique in herself, which a brother can never be. And we have to deal with that. We have to see the black woman in the richness she is, in the heavenly person she is. And then from that, if we operate from that standard, then we have no difficulty going on. Because suffering, which I don't enjoy, but suffering is a part of the righteousness to protect the black woman. And if it means that, then one cannot be unrighteous in terms of the black woman. And there is no religion, I would repeat that 2 more times. There is no religion, that came out of any other place than the African continent that can honor that African woman. Let me make it clear. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam cannot give to the black woman the type of honor she deserves. It has to be an African religion, not one that adopted African principles, reoriented them, changed them to suit their wretched way of living in the desert, or the wretched way of living in the snowy pile, or the wretched way of living anywhere, can give her the honor that the religion which she came from, and I don't even use the word religion, the means of worship of the deity which may be woman, and there is no religion that does not have a goddess or goddesses to complement their god and gods can do the way for the African woman. Right. Because any worship, any deity, any religion that does not have a woman there as a deity, or women as deities to complement the god and gods within the religion, is not a religion for me or the African people. Because the woman is part of our deity as much as the man. And I think I want to reestablish what makes me tick, so that when you hear me, you understand why it is I take the position I take. I don't take it intellectually on the basis that, well, I read a study from Professor so-forth or the other professor, the next person. And that's why you would see that I would get up and say that Fanon was a pig. That hurt a lot of people. I will get up and say that certain African leaders, like Mandela, is a dog. See, I have no problem. And people watch at me and wonder, what, is this man going crazy? No, I'm not going crazy. Not because a brother is popular or something like that, I'm going to back him. But when a brother in Africa becomes the head of state, and he can't find a sister to be the mistress of state with him, he's a dog. And I asked the dog for forgiveness to mention even the dog because it insulted the dog, and the dog has no right being insulted when he didn't do me no wrong. So I withdraw the word, he's less than a dog. And I got difficulty even describing that. So that when a man like Fernand and all of them could write all those beautiful things and die and leave the money to the cracker woman, then I gotta say, don't line me up with them kind of people. They are not my people. And you could find everything great about their writing, but my point is, you can write what the hell you want. That's right. It is how you live that's going to deal with me. You can't write me a beautiful speech saying how great black woman is, and then you can't find one to marry. When the thing comes down, you went up with a cracker broad, and that's the only time I call a sister broad. Crackers are the only broad. Sisters can never be a broad. You understand? We got to get this straight. And so you understand now why I'm controversial even to black folks, to black intellectuals. Because somebody said, are you prejudiced? Are you damn right I'm prejudiced? I prejudge things. Yeah. And that's why sisters don't understand me with their modern self. The other day a sister said, you looking at me just as a sex object. You're damn right. I mean, good as you look. You coming down the street looking all sweet and got all them succulent things up there. And, I mean, God damn, you don't want to look like a European woman. Be proud. Be proud of every bump you got. The front bump, the back bump. And when I look at you, I say, good, Google move. You be happy because I am praising you. I'm going out my mind trying to dig you. So you got to understand, when I watch you and trying to pick out one of you, it's hard when I can get it. It's hard me to watch all these sisters here and to have to pick out one. I said, Cracker got no problem. He looked like death when he did all of them. So he just go to his computer and pick out one. You see, they got dating thing and computer thing. But when a brother watch one of you sisters, look, that's your woman, but I'm not. I'm just looking because I know you got good eyes. But when I turn around, sister, and I look at you, you flip me. And then when you whip some brain on me too, you know. See, my wife understands I got her 44 years. She understands what it is. And she said, well, I know you're going to look. The sister understands me. And she know I will look and take a hard look. Because she understands how she is. That it was hard not to look at her. It's hard not. So I had to make that kind of my old year statement and my new year declaration. In order to be that way, and then to raise a family. You see, my policy is, I would prefer to take a child from a sister that may not be mine. She said, well, this is your child. I'm pregnant for you. To take the child that belongs to somebody else, than to have denied a child that might have been mine. I have to realize that that child she gave me, although it might not have been mine, is better than any Rolls Royce you bring up. Because eventually the child will give me a glass of water or a cup of tea or something to eat or some bread one day. And you would not complain if a man left you with a Rolls Royce, a house, a yacht, or a condominium. You're not going to say, don't leave me with that. But you're going to say, don't leave me with a child. Are you saying that the condominium and all those things is better than the child? No, I don't believe that. That's why I adopted 8 children in my life. 12 biological children I just lose by second oldest girl. in June. And I had 12 biological offered to me by 4 different women, 2 or 3 of which died. I got so good to them they couldn't take no more. And this one, Gertrude, she's trying to see if I'm not going to die first. So I told her, I said, I refuse to go before you. Because I want to be here to be able to make sure your grave is in good order. And she's trying to show me she's going to be here to make sure my grave is in order. But with all that, I'm saying to you, we have to take more black children. We've gotten to the stage now that white folks are adopting black children and got them like you got little parakeet. That's all they're doing. I mean, to show how good they are, and we run around with the latest Cadillac, the latest Duesenbergs and whatnot and whatever, but we can't afford one little black child. No, I said that my daughters adopt, and my sons adopt besides their own. And if we follow those policies, to me, in my little way of thinking, we will alleviate much of the hardship we've got, and then we will go back. About Nubia or Sudan, and for that matter, Ethiopia. I had a rich privilege, and I'm glad that I pick out the parents, it seems as if I knew who I was going to get me, because they were parents who, fortunately, just came from the right place. I had a father that came from Gondar, Ethiopia, northwest Ethiopia, born of a group of people that even in Ethiopia weren't wanted. I was born from an Ethiopian Hebrew, which Westerners call, and in Ethiopia they call us falasha, meaning people without a statue, strangers, funny people, don't belong. And that's what the word falasha means in Amharic, a people without a mooring. I was called as a young boy a Chankala. Chankala means an African. Here I am in Africa, in Ethiopia, but Ethiopians calling me an African. Because we were given some jive that we are Hamitic, Shemitic, and all kind of ticks and wicks that don't mean a damn thing, imposed on us by a guy called Selassie. I was born under that condition. I born as a young man where I had to get off the few sidewalks that they had. I had to get off it when certain Christians passed. I could not be on the same sidewalk. I had to walk off. That's the culture in which I came. My mother was born in Puerto Rico, in the Caribbean. Some people call it the West Indies. I don't know the place, West Indies. I thought India was at the southern end of Asia. But I've never seen a West Indian in my life. I've seen black folks, Africans, who call themselves West Indians. They're stupid enough to not know. And even those with the biggest education still call themselves West Indian. Well, she was of Yemenite parents who had gone to Spain and wound up in Puerto Rico. And that happened to be my mother. They were also called in Puerto Rico Maranas, people of Marana family. It meant the black-skinned Jews of Spain. And they moved on and came down to the Caribbean. In every one of the islands ruled by Spain at one time or the other. So it gave me an opportunity to have a background of the homeland, the motherland, and of the Caribbean. And a little, if you could say, and I minimize it, and my mother did, having to do with that Asian peninsula, was inhabiting long before the Arabs got there, coming down from a part of the Caucasus Mountain. That peninsula was occupied by another group of people that goes back to biblical, the Hebrew biblical days. I'm not dealing with the European Kazakhs. I'm dealing were the earliest Hebrews that's supposed to have come from the land of Chaldea, around the city of Ur. Now, with that, understanding that background, and believing that that background, particularly the second part, dominated my character, because that's all I was taught. In my youth, I had gone from, at 1924, my father was assigned by the Lidyasu government. That's the government that Selassie overthrew. Lidyasu was the grandson of Menelik II. The word Menelik should be Abna Hakim. That was the name of Menelik I, Abna Hakim. In 1924, when my father assigned there, I was 6 years old, being born in 1918. We were assigned to Brazil in an economic position. It was not diplomatic, it was in the office of the Consul General. Ethiopia had no Consul General officially with Ethiopia, but since Brazil had gotten its coffee from Ethiopia, Ethiopia had a relationship, a commercial relationship, and they charged the affairs. That was the official title of my father. The charge the affairs had to be there. Assigned there, in 1924, the revolution came. Selassie and Abuna Johannes poisoned Zadito, the daughter of Menelik II, whom Menelik had left, to watch and raise up her son, his grandson, to turn over the government to him at age, when he became of legal age of Ethiopia. By that time, the overthrow, sponsored by Selassie and Abuna Johannes, my father could not go back to Ethiopia because there was no sense going to Ethiopia just to die at the hand of Selassie and Abuna Johannes. The Abuna is the head of the church, by the way, and the emperor is bound to protect the church. The church, Ethiopia had then a Christian government. Down through the years, Ethiopia had various different governments, and each government, the religion of the emperor became the religion of the government. And in this case, the religion of Menelik, the ancient Menelik, before him, the first Menelik, had made the country a Hebrew country. It's supposed to have been a sexual relationship between Makeda, which they call the Queen of Sheba, or actually she was the Queen of Aksum, which people call Ethiopia, and the Empress of Sheba. She had conquered Sheba, thus making her the Empress of the areas that she conquered, but the Queen of the land from whence she did the conquering. We need to keep the history straight. She, by getting this son, changed the religion of the country by, at that time, the Ethiopians worshipped the god Amun-Ra, the same god that was worshipped in Egypt, that was worshipped in Sudan, that was worshipped in Meroe, that also was worshipped in Ethiopia. That god was equally worshipped in Penwet. Penwet today is called Uganda, Kenya, Somalia, and parts of northern Tanzania. It was the largest empire of Africa in ancient days. Well, Amun-Ra, the earthly part of God Ra. Ra was the god of all God and the greatest god, and was only depicted as a sun disk. You will notice that Amun-Ra is depicted as symbolically as a goat with the horn, a ram with the disc between the horn and the rest of a human body. And that was Amun-Ra, a representative of Ra. Since no man could have seen God, and we still say, no man sees God and live. No man sees the sun and live. If you could see the sun, the rays would blast your brains out and you die. So you could hardly look at an eclipse without looking at some diversionary measure. Now, these are the background that is very important. My father couldn't go back. I went from Brazil to Cuba trying to get home, because if my mother was the one that was born, my father was born in Puerto Rico, it would be easy for her to come. But in those days, the immigration law said, a woman, an American woman, she was born in Puerto Rico, therefore had right to American citizen, could not bring in her husband without problem. But a man could have done it. So it was difficult for my mother to get back to Puerto Rico. And finally she did after 2 years in Cuba. I then was brought up in the Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands, mainly St. Croix and Puerto Rico. Because my father practiced law, my mother's family, he joined up with my mother's family, who were in the field of largely medicine and law. And it's that way I lived between the two islands, and on occasion going to St. Thomas, because my mother had an uncle there in St. Thomas, Marcus Cruz, who was the director of police. So back and forth those islands I grew. I was trying to tell you, I had the privilege then of being brought up as an African boy in the Caribbean, which they call in the West Indies, and in the Spanish language and the English language, and a good extent to the Danish language. So that was the quote-unquote multicultural thing they're talking about these days. But I did not take on upon myself Latino. What the hell does it mean? It means a person who reads Latin, or come from a country where there's Latin. Well, Latin is in the English language too, and is in many other Western language you find a big amount of Latin as well as a big amount of Greek. But I would not take on any divisionary name to try to separate me from the African people. And thus when I came to New York City and had a little time living with my mother's uncle, Caspar Hustain, and many of you who know the number system know that Caspar and Alex Pompey brought the number system, the 3 figures, from Cuba here. So I got very royal people, the number runners, the gangsters, and so forth. Like you said, many people say, my ancestors were kings and queens. I never had that privilege. My ancestors were plain old country folks. So when you ask me, am I African? Yes. Am I proud? Yes. What was your ancestors? The farmers, the people who cut the cane, the people who pick the cotton and all kind of things like that. I don't know one damn royal member in my family. If I know him, I'm going to shoot him. Take him out the grave, I'll shoot him for being so bad to the African people. So don't tell me about my ancestors were kings and queens. That's yours. So it's a bad thing. I mean, I probably would never met you, and we would never have a good time. But all right. So don't see when every time I hear you, you got an ancestor who was king or queen, one who was a Blackfoot, a Greenfoot, a no-foot Indian, some kind of Indian. You know what I mean? Every one of you got coming with all them Irish Scots of it, and you look black like me. And I said, where did you get that? All that? Did the first look in the mirror lately? So you understand? We got to get this thing straight before we start talking about anything else. So with this background, this you have yours truly right here. But I am proud with all of that. I'm proud because the source from whence I came, I know I didn't come from the Mediterranean. I went down to the Mediterranean. I come from the soul of Africa, dead center. I came from, just like I came from my mother's heaven. You understand? Right in that womb, down that fallopian tube. Like I always say in my little book, heaven is between a black woman's leg, right down that tube. See, brothers, you've been to heaven, some of you brothers. Some of you have never been to heaven. But try one. A black woman may be good for your health. Try one. No, some of you brothers going to these Ivy school have never had a black woman. And that's why you're so stupid. Until you get a black woman, you will never be right. And, okay. So, it came, I know that my civilization came from the place where the black woman is. That's the ancient Egyptians said, when you die, we don't talk about no damn nonsense about going back to dirt. Man, come from no dirt. You said you go back to the twat of Osiris, of Isis. When you die, you go back spiritually, back from where you came, to the twat of Osiris, back in the mother. I had proof of that. About 10, 15 years ago, my first grandchild was killed playing a college game They won the inter-island competition. They were coming back from Frederiksted, where the game was, back to Christiansted in this little Japanese car. A drunk who was license been taken away umpteen time, in a station wagon, drunk as what, sideswiped the car and killed the whole team. My grandson, Gino, first grandchild, was one of those killed in that accident. He died the next day. While there at the funeral, my daughter, his mother, and some of my children with me, standing at the last time to look at the casket. My daughter, which had not been reacting much, I was looking at her and I said, Ellie, you feel good? And she said, yes. But when they got ready to close the casket, she bent and screamed and squeezed her stomach and said, Gino, you're hurting me. She had gone back to the day when she gave birth to him. They make me further understand the woman a little more. You can never, brothers, understand a sister because you can never have that experience. You can't even have experience of a cramp in the menstrual period. You will never know. You can empathize. Even a doctor, physician, a gynecologist who's a male, he can empathize with it, never know. She went back to birth. And there I understand. I understand. And my mother was a midwife, and I've been many times and cases with her. And I thought I knew about childbearing. I didn't know a thing, my daughter. And then when we got back, I didn't say anything to her because she go to the funeral, we went to the cemetery, buried my grandson, and we went home. And she was just jolly, serving the people and everything, and I called her on the side, I said, Eleanor, what happened in that church? She said, Daddy, I gave birth to Gino. I said, don't talk stupidness, girl. I said, your son died 19 years old or 20 years old. She said, Daddy, I felt like I was giving birth that day in the labor room. I said, but the labor room was our house. In the house you give birth, I was right there. She said, Daddy, you can't understand. She was right. I couldn't understand. She was giving birth that day. She said, Daddy, I felt the birth pain. And after a while, I sit down and I said, you know, she must be right. Because it expects me. I will never know. But that's why they said, the birth pain she felt is the birth pain I felt when I went to the Sudan. When I took with 11 brothers, Dr. Lewis and others, Brother Dix and others, just this summer in July, when we left Khartoum and we drove 5 hours non-stop into the desert, dead into the desert, no trees, no nothing. And we stopped at a place called Naga. And in Naga, there is a queen, there was a queen, who made Hatshepsut look like a little playgirl. And she saw there in many scenes holding her enemies, all kings, smashing them, and they present her as a lioness. That was enough. But we went 2 hours more further into the desert to the complex, the Meroitic complex, where the administration and everything of that government was used to be, and see the ruins. That wasn't enough. We went another hour and a half further into the desert at the pyramids of Meroe. 7 hours, way in the desert, no track, no roads. We had to, because when you run over the road within an hour, the tracks are covered up. So each time you go, you have to know by sights on the mountain. And we got to drive until you could see. Sometimes you're off this way, of 2 or 3 miles, you got to diddle-daddle and try to figure out things, or you may see a brother riding a camel, or some kids riding a camel, and then you could ask them, where would such and such a thing? Those little kids know these places, or where the well is, the one well where you would find. Yes, you get the feelings, now you get the feelings of being your mother womb again. You're in no place. You got to guess where you are. And then you could get the feelings of how the ancient brothers felt when they were in this area doing the things they did. Because you start to see the mirages. Way up ahead of you look like a lake. And you know there's water there. You're glad you got your water. You're in an air-conditioned vehicle, but the water is hot. Because outside it's 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And once in a while you see what appears to be a house. It is a house, but there's no top. There's goat skin, just layer of goat skin hanging and poles, because it hasn't rained there in 10,000 years. The only water that anybody knows, they must go to the Nile, or they must dig about a mile down to find water, and there's a little well with leather rope made from the skin of the goat, pulled by the camel, goes off and come back, and a little bucket this small. Don't bring up a gallon of water each time. That's where they get the source of the water for the animal and for the human being. Those brothers and sisters know where to live. They know there is no thing in that area as a court, as a police department, as any of these social things that we have. But yet these are the people who built what all we have been seen and more. We didn't get to Napata because I had been to Napata. I knew where to go. I've been there a number of times. But we had to go to these places. We could not pretend like the Masons pretend by taking a blanket, plugging it in the wall, and walking in it instead of walking in the hot sun, hot sand. No, that's nonsense, what a European do. No, we went there and walked in hot sun. You had to walk in the hot sun. When you came out, it was hot sun. You know it. You could literally see the heat coming up out of the earth. And then when we went to the pyramids of Meroe, yes, the pyramids of Egypt are large. The largest in Meroe is no larger than the third-sized pyramid at Giza, the one of Menkaure. But they are much more beautiful. Much more beautiful. Then you realize the cluster, the manner in which the cluster, you understand why it is from here in the south and farther south, at the beginning of the Nile, that the ancient Africans started what became the origin of high culture. Because just nature itself had given him a thing to work with. By nightfall, when we left there, went to the city of Shindi. You may call it Tshindi. T-S-H-I-N-D-I. Tshindi is a pretty big place. It's got about 200,000 living inhabitants. To spend the night, we didn't because of some conditions in Khartoum, and we had to get back and back to catch our flight, which was to leave 6 o'clock at night. Instead, there was error, it left 6 o'clock in the morning. But it was there that I had carried the brothers. There's certain other things that goes with it I can't tell you. From there we went to other places and looked and examined some of the other ancient things. But they saw, brothers saw, where the Africans had his experience. I listened to brothers marveling about Sirius, about the Dogon, as if Sirius was only sighted in West Africa among the Dogons. The ancient Africans and Nile call it the dog star and show it as 2 upside-down pyramids. One pyramid going that way, intersected by another pyramid upside down, thus causing a 6-point star, which the Jews adopted and called the Star of David. It is that experience, and others that will go further south when Hunefa said, we came from the beginning of the Nile, where God happy dwells at the foothill of the mountain of the moon. There's certain things you will see me repeat constantly in my books, repeat constantly in my lectures, because they're the fundamentals of our life. I will always talk about the womb of the black woman in every lecture. I cannot avoid it because every lecture it is there. The basis and foundation for it is in every lecture. And any man who lectures and cannot speak and do not speak about the source of his origin, got to be jiving. It is because he's still European-minded. He's still, you must give praise to the source from whence you come. Thus, every lecture I give, I must give praises to, not to Allah, not to Jesus, not to Jehovah, but to the black woman that gave birth to me. Allah, Jesus, Jehovah, all those are beliefs. My mother is not a belief. That's a reality. I was born from a woman. If you doubt it, I'll take you to any hospital labor room and show me what's giving birth. Show me Allah giving birth. Show me Jehovah giving birth. Show me Jesus giving birth. I'll show you a woman.
Every time.
All right then. There is no guess for that. All the other things are theories. But she is not a theory, she's a fact. Even a female cat giving birth is a fact. You won't see no tomcat. You may see tomcat trying to give birth. And all he's gonna cut up with is a piece of doo-doo. That's all he's gonna come down. All right, now we got to separate the myth and the fiction from the reality. But we don't want, and the reason the brother Wright believe and act this way is because the European couldn't deal with it. He couldn't deal with Mary being the mother of his God. So he had to remove her at the Nicene Conference. He had to belittle her, even though he had preached, Holy Mary, Mother of God, blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus. He had to remove her. Said that, and still leave the prey. This is the thing with the cracker. This sucker is bad. He will lie to himself, leave the thing to you to see, and then lie. And then say, yeah, you're the mother of God. Listen to this shit here. She's the mother of God. But she can't go in the church of her son to preach, to say something about him. And then she got her son with no man. What's wrong with sex? See, the difference with me in Egypt, all of Africa, is that I show sex to be God. They show you God men with a constant erection, such a erection that at the end it get a little curve. Gone out so long that you have to put some strength to it. At the end you have to put a curve so it can stand there without falling. In the next scene in Egypt, in the chapel in Abydos, God Osiris, flat on his back with erection. False erection there is. And in the next scene, you see Isis receiving the sperm from this penis to get the immaculately conceived child. Here in the Western world, there's an angel that come and put the baby in Mary, but no penis. But the angel got a man name. There ain't no female angel ever mentioned. Right. Now how the hell did the sperm get in Mary? Something had to put it in there. Right. It went in by remote osmosis? Hmm? Even if it's an angel, a bird, or anything, at least the ancient Egyptians deal with, but they show the penis, and the bird sitting on the penis and has a vagina on the penis where the sperm is going to enter. But we can't deal with that. We can't even deal with that. I remember one time my daughter was going like this. I said, Cola, what's wrong with you? Daddy, I got pains, I got cramp. I said, well, why are you doing like that? She said, well, Kwame's here, and I want him to know. I said, if Kwame knew, would you still have the cramp? He doesn't know, but you got cramps. If he know you're going to have cramp, yeah, I got going to have cramp. Then let Kwame know you got cramp. And if he asks you why, he say, look, I got my period. This is a biological fact that's going to happen for a number of years yet. And if you don't know, let me tell you. See, my mother tells me, boy, let me tell you. There's certain times of the month I got my period. That time they had no such thing called napkin. It was a towel. She said, this here is menstruation. You don't mess with a woman with this when she has this. You understand, boy? Yes, mama. See, I don't have no problem. I ain't raping nobody because she had done tell me. She told me, you rape any woman, I'm going to kill you myself. We're going to tell you how to talk to women. So you don't have to rape nobody. You're going to know how to get some yourself. And your own initiative. I'm going to talk to you. I'll get your father to tell you. I can talk to you. I tell you some of the things that women do when you know you're hitting strong. Some of the reactions. So then you don't got to rape nobody. You know if you don't get none, go on someplace else. You don't got to rape because you're wasting time now. You understand? So mama tell me all the things to expect, some of the things that women gonna do that says no. Don't waste time because it's gonna be no. And she tell you, well, I got to think it over. Stick boy, you got a chance. See, that's because we got to start getting down to the level of reality. We're too academic. You see? So when we go there, you see, when these brothers go to Egypt, they don't talk to the old folks. They only want the university, and they only want the library and the museums. But when I go to Nubia, or anything like that, and I sit there, when you know all that with me, I'm sitting with this old man, could barely walk, and he's telling me, yes, you can't find it in any book, but he's telling me a history. It isn't in the book, but it's the traditional way of passing down information. The way it was passed down at the Grand Lodge of Luxor, the way it was passed down in Meroe. Certain things written we saw on the wall, but there's certain things missing, and we know that it had to be, it couldn't be just that, something is missing. Some people were given information. Thus, when you came, you saw some of the information, but you couldn't do nothing because you had to meet certain people to get the other part that matched the jigsaw puzzle. And it is so that this went back to the Twa, all the way in what is today Central East Africa. The same people that you saw in the newspaper, they're the descendants of those people that started it all, the Twa and the Hutu. You may look at them badly or whatever, but they've gone all over Africa thousands of years before we, the giants, showed up. You see them in the southern tip of Africa as Grimaldi. And you see the drawings in the Museum of Natural History right up the street in 79th Street, 77 to 79 to 81st Street and Central Park West, especially in a section called the Man of Africa. You see these people in the southern tip of Africa today. They are disrespected by Africans and Europeans alike. The Europeans call them Bushmen and Hottentot, and the stupid Africans call them the same thing. instead of calling them by their name, Khoi Khoi and Kalahari. The same people who went up the west coast of Africa, across the area we now call the Straits of Gibraltar, up there and wind up all the way up even into Austria. Those same people who went the opposite side, they went northeast, following the riverbed, calling themselves Sybenetos, S-Y-B-N-E-T-O-S. You see one when you go in the museum in Cairo. As you enter to the right-hand side, you see the top of a coffin, the lid of a coffin with a sculpture of a Sybeneto. Small people, a people who once even became kings of Egypt because they thought they were specially handed down, and they were from the god, the deity, him or herself. And that's where we are to find the one. There, for the first time, the oldest known rock joints dealing with the Ankh were found in this area. We know that they got the oldest people because we got Denknesh, the Ethiopian woman, unearthed, even older than Zinzanthropus boise. She is 3.2 million years old, and somebody talking some nonsense for Adam and Eve. And then the faggots have now changed that to Adam and Steve. All the time we look at it, nature reveals to us the woman as our progenitor. When we thought we had the catch and brothers were feeling good with Zinzanthropus boise, let's break that down. Zen Jan, Black Coast. That was the Persian language called Africa, East Africa, the Black Coast, or the Coast of the Black. Anthropoid, Anthropus, Boise, the Englishman who put up the money to do this study. $1.7 million years old, again in Central East Africa. Why there? The hottest place on earth. Why? Because it's out of the sun, out of heat, generates life. I never look or never wonder about the oldest man in Sweden or in the North Pole. Cold doesn't generate life. Heat generates life. And so while you looking for Pond's cream and skin lightener, I'm looking for darkening and pomade. I like a sister who gets dark lipstick. Especially one who got lips like mine. Who are a little thicker. Because when these lips collide, it vibrates. You ever heard a bottle of champagne being opened? when you remove those two lips, God, it's like a vacuum. This joint. Now, you sisters that don't have thick lips, I'm not going to blame you. It's no fault of yours. Because when it gets close to mine, you know, it will make up the difference. You see, our history is so great. Some people say, why you always make jokes? I said, because I feel good talking about my history. I swell up inside. Some people say, why do you go on? You don't stop. What the hell? I want to stop dealing with African history. I only 3 hours of sleep. That's good enough. Because I got to get back to this thing. If you get into it, you get into the digging and all those kind of things, you don't want to stop because nobody wants to stop eating honey. Nobody wants to stop loving. You stop because you can't go no more. But you don't want to stop. You understand what it is? When stopping time comes, say, You know you're going to stop. You said, God, I wish I could go, but I got to stop. I got to go. you know the feeling. Well, you get that feeling reading about yourself. You get that feeling finding out more about yourself. Right. When you find a new piece of rock with some carving or some anything, and here comes it. And the people say, well, it's 12 o'clock midnight. You say, well, what the hell that got to do with me? See, my wife said, but you don't go to sleep. What am I going to sleep for? I mean, she got good stuff, but I mean, but this stuff is even better because it's talking about the good stuff she got. You get what I mean? All right. So it is being involved with this, being involved, and when you find that everything points to here. Hunefa said it best. He said, the priest, high priest Hunefa, we came from the beginning of the Nile, where God happy dwells, at the foothills of the mountain of the moon. He was talking about that he and all the other Egyptians where we come from. So when all these crackers start talking about Egypt is a white land and all that, I won't pay no mind to those suckers. Because I had read where Hunefa said where we come from. I had seen the papyri, not in Egypt. I've seen them in London, in the museum in London. There are a lot of things you can't find in Egypt no more. You got to go to London, you got to go to Habsburg, and you got to go to Chicago, you got to go all over in Crackersville. For him to tell me, he stole my mama and grandmama and great-grand whatever all the way back, then telling me about stealing, that I am a thief. Everywhere I go, he put graffiti everywhere, put his goddamn name all over my statues, and then come back and tell me that they're him with all the big thick lips and the big nose. Especially when you go to Abu Simbel and you see Ramesses. That's right. If you had any doubt who he was, you can't leave in doubt. Otherwise you need double thick lenses. But that's why. So when we talk about Egypt, yes, be proud. Yes, raise a noise. But remember, it didn't start there. That is the zenith. When the young sister is born that day, and the doctor or the midwife said, you have a beautiful young daughter. You don't go to marry her that day. In any culture, they'll put you to jail, they'll kill you. It is years later, that event, that day, that nice little young girl, much later, mushrooms into that beautiful human specimen of a black woman, ready for a black mate, a black man. And they say a black male. There's a difference between a black man and a black male. A male makes with his woman a baby. A man take care of it. Right? Brothers, there's a big difference. Any jackass could be a father. And most jackasses are fathers. But it takes a man to be a real father. And a piece of paper from City Hall ain't got nothing to do with you being a father. See, Africans don't have illegitimate children. All children, there's no such thing as a child born from a law book. Even if they test tube, you got to get a sperm and the ovum from somewhere. A man and a woman. And there's no half sisters and half brothers. Do you see half of my brother coming down the street? I half sister. All them European nonsense. And we all loaded with them. And we swear by them and we judge each other by this goddamn nonsense. That's why when the Africans die, the African custom says that child is as much a member of the family of that child. Even that's that mother and that's the other mother, but that's the same man they relate to. Therefore, all children, married mother or not, share the pot. You share the same penis that helped to make you. Therefore, you share the same pot equally. We got to get these terms. We got to get these backgrounds. We got to put them into practicability. We got to live the life. That's the thing. We don't want to live the life. We want to speak about it, sing about it, poetry about it, but living the life. What is it if I came here with a Rolls Royce or a Duesenberg with a 130,000 bulletproof Mercedes Benz with a chauffeur telling you about being black? You gonna ask me, do you need all that shit to drive around with? Couldn't you find a car, bulletproof car, Chevrolet? And take some of that money and help some of the poor within our group at least? Do you need to go around impressing me? I'm not impressed by all that goddamn nonsense. You're just making yourself look an ass to me. Knowing that we're suffering. And you're taking 100,000, giving some crackers in Germany to impress me. And you're going to get killed. Anybody really want to kill you, going to kill you anyhow. You could get all the bulletproof, whatever you want. If they want to kill you, see how easy it was to fly in the president in window the other day? It's a pity he wasn't in the house there. It makes no difference. One cracker dead is another one cracker dead. I remember I was in Life Van Blaine's steakhouse with a guy named John Kennedy. And I was there I was getting pork chop and my favorite food, colored green, and some candy sweet, and I had a little, what that kind of thing they call it, apple sauce to tickle it. And those days I used to have corn pone. I mean, just plain old white food. And so, I was the sister, I saw her come with my food and I'm waiting for her to come out of the kitchen and the food was coming and my tongue was just watering and, oh man, my lips were wet. I could taste the food before I get it. And all of a sudden it says, ah! And my pork chop up in the air. I fell with the chops on the floor. And she hollered, they killed our president. And I said, who killed Krumah? She said, no, who's Krumah? She said, they just killed President Kennedy. I said, oh, shit. I thought somebody had killed Krumah. You see, a lot of you would understand. Why do I feel this way? Because that's why I went home, to reunite at home. Any place in Africa is home. Any time I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, I'm home. Anytime I'm in Tougaloo, Mississippi, I'm home. Anytime I'm in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Charlotte, Amalia, St. Thomas, Georgetown, Barbados, you name it, I'm home, as long as there are African people there. So that if you ask me, what are you? I am anything that you call African people. If you feel that we are dirt, I'm dirt. Because I know from whence we came. Two places. Physically on the earth center, Central East Africa. Biologically, from the womb of the black woman, heaven itself. So I could end. I end because I end in joy. I am the tallest man on the face of the earth. I walk with my mind on cloud 9 because I realize I was privileged to be born from a black vagina. Thank you.